mysteries abound around the world, from strange lights in the night sky to ghostly apparitions passing from one realm to the next. From the great pyramids of Egypt to what lies beneath the depths of Loch Ness. From Bigfoot to Atlantis, they are all mysteries waiting to be solved. Join Laurie Phillips, Lauren Smith, Graz, and Billy Simmons as they search for the truth on Nite Callers Radio.
Hello, and welcome everyone. It is January 15th, 2015, and you are listening to Nite Callers Radio. I'm here with the Nite Callers crew. I'm Laurie Phillips. I'm here with Lauren Smith, Graz, and Billy Wild Bill Simmons. And we're going to have a great show tonight, so everyone hang on to your hats. So how is everyone doing today?
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
Doing good. No complaints.
Doing real good.
Good. I've only had 4 hours of sleep, but I feel pumped and ready for the show. It's going to be a fantastic show today. We've got a couple of people that we're bringing on today, and it's going to be great. And I hope can y'all still hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. It's my phone. I don't know about my phone tonight. But I do have a question for Bill. We were talking about it earlier, and I wanted him to tell everyone about how excited he was about something he got from eBay today.
Yeah, another joke about my coffee pot.
Yes. He doesn't drink coffee pots from an electrical coffee pot.
Yeah, I do not drink electric coffee. Mine is percolated on the stove, and the glass bulb on mine broke about 4 days ago, so I've been hard to live with for 4 days.
Oh, my God.
It showed up tonight. It's all clean, filled. It's tactical. It's sitting on the stove and ready to percolate in the morning. I can't wait to get up. So it's been rough without coffee.
Yeah. I bet. Now, how I want to hear, how strong is your coffee, Wild Bill?
Okay, my coffee is so strong, it's not ready until it'll float a 45 bullet on the top. That's when it's perfect. Ready to go. If it'll stand a horseshoe up in it, it's ready.
No, thank you.
Oh, come on now.
You know I like my coffee, but I like my coffee, a little bit of coffee with some cream and sugar.
Yeah, that goes back to a joke that Laurie is praying that I don't spring on you. You were late getting in tonight, so we'll talk about it in the after show.
Oh, that's messed up. Come on. Y'all, I got a 2-year-old with a penchant for getting out of bed after I put him to bed.
Yeah, this room is not quite up for that.
No.
Yeah, you saw him crap hiding behind that PG-13
you
rating.
have to be politically correct. So. Yeah.
That's all right, Bill. You hide behind that PG-13 rating. You do that, chicken.
Yeah, I know. We'll save it for the after show.
That's what you're saying now. We'll see.
You know me.
Yeah. No. Well, I think we should go ahead and take off with this because I'm excited. I cannot wait for our first guest. And I'm going to hand it over to Bill, and Bill's going to take it from here.
All right. Well, we have a
Wild Bill.
We have a really special treat for you tonight. There was an audio recording that showed up and was presented to me about a week ago. The recording's been out about a week. And we have an audio recording that was made in South Oklahoma. This area of the state has been a hotbed of activity dating back to the First Nations people and the first settlers. And the sounds were recorded by a lady named Kayla Ott on her property on her cell phone. And we're lucky enough that we have Kayla with us tonight on Nite Callers to talk about this awesome recording. And with that, welcome to the show, Kayla. Are you there?
Yes, sir.
All right. Good to have you here, Kayla.
Welcome,
Thank
Kayla.
you so much for coming by. Yes. Would you like to go ahead? Would you like to tell us about the recording, what was going on at that particular time, right before you made it?
Just before I turned on my phone, the dogs inside, they were freaking out. My mother-in-law's dog, Bruno, he went up to the door and was scratching at the door, getting up where he could see out the window. And normally when he does that, he gets all excited and stuff. Well, this time he had his tail tucked, and he was acting like he was afraid of whatever was outside. And I let him out, and I heard a little bit of something in the woods. Well, apparently the dogs didn't know what it was at first, so they all ran to the tree line and got about 30 feet from the house and just slammed on the brakes and came running back to the house. I mean, they tucked between their legs. And my father-in-law's dog, Sassy, she is, I guess you could call her the alpha of our pack of dogs. She wouldn't even come out of the house.
Wow.
And normally she's first one out the door to go get whatever's on our property. So I stood out on the front porch and listened for probably about 10 seconds, and that's when it started up. And it started around 7, probably 55, 56 probably, and I got the recording at about 8 o'clock on that night on the 8th.
Okay. All right. I tell you what, let's go ahead and go to the audio, to the recording, and then we come back. I've got some questions for Kayla. So, Lori, or Graz, can y'all go ahead and cue that up?
Sure. I'll try.
All right.
Can you hear that?
Yep.
That sounds like a doggone T-Rex. You know, you hear about that all the time. You know, they talk about the T-Rex howl. That's exactly what I think they're talking about. That right there.
Oh, I'm telling you. Kayla, what at the time that you were listening to this, what did you think it was? Did you have any idea?
Honestly, no, because, I mean, we've heard noises going on for about the past 5 or 6 years, and they're always happening in this time of the year. And when I heard it, I mean, I was trying to debunk of whatever I thought it was, going down the list. But when I heard that around the middle of the video, when you hear that really, really long howl, that's what got me, because I've never heard that before, that magnitude and that, because, I mean, you could hear how loud it was, and I wasn't moving. That's how loud it got.
Right.
Oh.
I don't blame you. I've heard that several times out in the field, and in fact, I've actually heard that once in the daytime at 3:30 that gave me the creeps. Did anybody else in the area, have they heard anything like that, or have they had any experiences? Or was this just kind of just out of the blue, brand new thing for you?
It wasn't a brand new thing for me because like I said, I've heard it ever since that I moved in with my husband and them. Yeah. When I would go out and be outside and stuff, helping my mother-in-law, like wash the dogs or wash a concession trailer or something, we would hear, like, it would be around about sunset. Even in the summer, we'd hear little whoops and stuff, and it wasn't a dog. It was that same little deep, deep tone.
Right.
And other people in the area, I've gotten many, many messages from some of my friends on Facebook that they're like, hey, I thought that I'd let you know just to help you kind of have a little bit more confirmation of what you think that is. I have heard that, too, around the area that I live.
Right. Right.
Wow.
Oh, it's
a great recording. And you got it with your phone, is that right, Kayla?
Yes, the phone that I'm talking to you right now. Now, at the end of the video, you know how it cuts out?
Yeah.
It was
just cuts off and leaves you wanting more.
Yeah, and it made me so angry because my phone, I'm due for an upgrade, and I keep on putting it off. And it continued for about another probably 45 seconds after that, 45 seconds, almost a minute after that. But it was.
Would it be wrong to ask what town you live in Oklahoma?
I live on the outskirts of Valiant, Oklahoma.
Okay, I used to live in Ada years ago, and I back in those days I wasn't doing a whole lot of bigfooting, but I was friends with David Wilbank. He's a famous bigfooter out of Oklahoma, and Oklahoma is very, very squatchy. And those dogs done exactly what dogs will do when a Bigfoot's around. Dogs are afraid. I take a dog out with me every now and then. It's not my dog; it belongs to someone else. And normally dogs like to lead on the trail, but when there's a Bigfoot around, the dog will no longer lead. It will tuck its tail and hide. So those dogs act exactly the way dogs do act in the presence of a Bigfoot.
We have a question from the chat, Kayla. Lori103 wants to know, how long have you lived in this area where you're at right now?
I myself have lived here for about 4.5 years. My mother and father-in-law and my husband have lived here. I think it's been going on for upwards of 16 years, I think, on this property. But they've lived around this area. Brandon's lived around, my husband has lived around this area all of his life.
Okay. So we're being asked to play it again. If that would be okay with everybody, I'd like to play it again.
Oh, that's fun.
Oh, if it wants to play again. There it goes. That right there is the dog.
And I know you can hear a dog whining somewhere. That's my other dog, Buddy.
Is that video on YouTube?
Yes, it's on YouTube.
Can you hear that?
I did have my YouTube name is Kayla Francis, and I had that YouTube channel for a while.
Jeez Louise. That is an awesome recording. Oh, my goodness. You know, I love to record. I'm recording all my 14, 15 years of doing this, and I've never got anything like that. That's just that is cream right there.
I love it.
It is excellent.
Wow. Good job, Kayla. Good job.
That's a good work.
it was a little bit unnerving. I have to say that. It was unnerving.
So what's your husband think about all this?
I didn't think that he would be so intrigued by it, but when he heard it, he was like, "Oh wow!" Like he's an avid believer, and so is my mother and father-in-law. And my father-in-law has heard it out here before, but it's been like feet behind him. And when he even heard it, when I showed him the recording, he like got this wide-eyed look, and he was like, "You heard the exact same thing I heard."
Very interesting. You have a very interesting piece of property there. I think you're lucky to have, firstly, have Bigfoots in the area.
Either that or T-Rex.
One or the other.
It's like we're living on Jurassic Park.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that is just. Oh. But, you know, I've heard that. I have always heard that. Oh, we heard you did that T-Rex yell. Well, I've never heard the T-Rex yell. This is the first time I've, well, no, it's not the first time because I've heard other recordings. But this is one of the most clear, absolutely compelling recordings I've ever heard.
I agree.
Great.
I agree, too.
I love it. Wow. Wow. So, Kayla, what's your next step here? You gonna try to take up researching, or?
Oh yeah, definitely. I'd love to go out and actually like find this stuff out, like see if I can find anything out there.
What does your husband?
We'll let Mr. Billy handle it.
I know you said that your husband and your in-laws have had an interest in this. Have they gotten a recorder or anything to start setting up or anything like that?
I do have a couple of, me and my mother-in-law have a few cameras that we can set up that have really good audio equipment on them that we could set out.
Yeah, that would work. Wow, we need to get this girl a digital recorder for sure. Yeah, definitely. Well, look, let me back up and let you guys ask her questions.
Well, I'm actually close enough, so if at some point I get an invite to come up and help research, I'll be headed that way.
Oh yeah, I will. When we get off here, I will send you my mother-in-law's number.
Okay.
And you can talk to her because they're actually the owners of the property. So really and truly, I can't give an invite. I have to talk to them, or someone has to talk to them. Just to be courteous.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah. That would be good, because if you were my daughter-in-law and you just up and invited somebody up off the internet to my house without asking me first, I would not be a happy camper. I would.
Oh no.
Yeah, so good deal. Good deal. Well, I hope it works out, Bill. I'd like to get the 411, you know? Yeah.
Well, she's in an extremely good area. Like I said, that particular area has been a hotbed for a long time.
You know, it's not too far from where me and Lauren camped a few months ago.
No.
Sure enough. Yeah. We camped Little Creek, Little Pine, what was that, Lauren? Little Pine Lake was the name of it, or?
I mean, it's right near there.
Yeah.
I
can't think of the name of the lake.
I can't either. I think it was like Pine Creek Lake or something like that.
Pine Creek Lake, yeah.
Maybe that was it. I don't know.
From Pine Creek Lake.
Yeah. Well, that's good to know.
Well, all I know to say is keep those recorders running out there. You're going to get something else. Guarantee it.
Yes.
Right, and I also have another recording on my YouTube page because people are asking, people are posting like, oh, well, some of the skeptics, which I really do respect the skeptics and everything too, because, yeah, I know there's a lot of people who don't believe in that stuff, and, you know, I'm not going to hound people for that, but I do have a recording of coyotes, too, out there just to have a little bit of a comparison, too.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, needless to say, I would assume you now have a full-fledged interest in this at this point. This is going on right in your backyard.
Yeah. That boy has got to be a big boy. He's got to be a big. I've heard of him being as tall as 12 feet coming out of Kaimichi. That's why they call them Kaimichi giants. That whole area there's been quite a few reports of very, very large Sasquatch in there. And you haven't had any kind of aggression or anything like that, have you, Kayla?
Not physical aggression, no, towards us. I can't really say to the animals because we do have part wolf and part coyote dogs out here.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't really say when it comes to the dogs because being part wolf, when they get to a certain age, when they get to that age where they're about to pass away and stuff, they will go off the property. Now, I can't say that they've been taken off the property by one of these creatures, but anything else, no, we haven't had any aggression.
That's good. Good. Have you ever heard of the Hanobi incident?
I think I have.
Okay.
I think. Let's see.
For anybody out there who's not familiar with the Hanobi incident, it was in regards to a family that were being terrorized by a group of Bigfoot, and it made national news. These people had no privacy after all that, so but it did make national news. It's probably the very first Bigfoot story in our present time that made national news. That was a true story. It wasn't a hoax or anything like that. So it's pretty interesting.
Now, I think my father-in-law has told me a couple things about that because he keeps up with that kind of stuff, like, all the time.
Wow. Oh, that's just... Oh, I think we should play it one more time, please.
Do it.
I just want to play it one more time.
Can you hear that?
Yes, I could hear it.
Oh, that just blows me away. That last part does me in. There is a question from the chat. They want to know, were you in the woods or in the house when you were recording that? You did say you were outside. Is that right?
I was out on my bottom step of my front porch when I recorded this, just a couple feet from the house.
Okay.
Which that's about 100 feet from the tree line, just to give you a little bit more of a comparison.
Yes. Okay. And
I would like to ask if have people been living on that property for a long time now? Is the house fairly new?
No, the house itself is 15 years old.
15, okay. That would be, I think, fairly new in a span of time.
Some Squatch ears, yeah.
Yeah. I bet you're thinking a little different about stepping outside in the dark now. Outside of the house.
Yeah, there's a little bit more of a wariness, kind of tiptoeing around instead of going out there walking around like I normally do, just walking around like not thinking about anything.
I don't blame you one bit.
Just watch your dogs.
That's exactly. That's in the PMing back and forth. That was probably the first thing that I told her. was watch those dogs. So.
I had someone tell me a long time ago, Kayla, because I had dogs and I was real worried about them. They were bad about running out there chasing down boogers, and I was just so worried that they were going to get got. And they said that, the Sasquatch watch you. And if you show a lot of affection to your dogs and let the Sasquatch know that they're part of your family, that they will leave them alone. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if there's any way to prove that, but let me tell you what. I am one affectionate son of a gun to my dogs when it's boogery outside.
Her dogs are smart enough not to go running out there in the woods.
Yeah.
Not right. Squat.
So they've gotten better about they don't run out there anymore, but I still have made sure that they know that these dogs are part of my family. Now yours are a little wilder, I think, and I don't know if that's going to be possible, but see what you can do with that and see. We don't know if that's true or not, but it doesn't hurt a thing, and your dogs appreciate it. So,
my dogs aren't pinned. Oh, I was going to say, my dogs aren't pinned. I don't pin them up. I don't chain them up. They're free runners. Now, we do have one dog that's slightly wild, but the rest of them, they're big babies. They'll come right up to you, and they love every second of being pet.
Then I think you'll be all right. I think they pay attention. They pay attention. And a dog on a chain, I don't know why, but when a dog's on a chain, it makes them meaner. And a lot of dogs are killed while they're on a chain. Now, I don't know why that is, but I've heard that a lot. So, yeah.
We've got a question from one of our own. And Miss Lauren wants to know, how did your husband react to hearing this, Kayla?
Well, when they all got home that night, I instantly was like, "Hey, dude, you got to watch this or listen to it. Really, you can't really see anything." But I let him listen to it, and you can't hear anything on my phone without earphones. And he sat there and listened for I replayed it 20 times. And he's sitting there, and every time I let him listen to it again and again, he's sitting there and he's like, I've heard that before, but I've never heard an animal like that before that I could pinpoint and be like, oh, that's a hound dog, or oh, that's a whatever.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'd have been out there the next day looking for giant dinosaur tracks.
Yeah, we were walking out there. We have a creek behind our house, and we were walking out there where I thought I heard that noise. And the other thing was that it rained. It rained that night, so everything was frozen. Even the sand out there was frozen.
Well, I for one am hoping this is not the last audio that you get. I'm looking forward to hearing much more.
Yeah, I mean, I really do hope that it sticks around because we've heard it for, 5-6 years going on every single winter where we hear it.
Wow.
That's
well,
really
we'll let you get Billy to teach you how to do some real squat.
Yeah. So you guys don't do calls or anything like that. You basically act like you're not squatchers and just let them be natural out there. Is that basically what y'all do?
Yeah, because normally when we hear it, I think they realize when we go and work and stuff, we have someone that stays at the house and stuff and takes care of the dogs and the horse. But when we're going out working, one or two of us, there's not really a whole bunch of noise. There's not a bunch of activity. So I think they feel a little bit more at ease around there because there's not a lot of commotion and stuff going on there. We kind of leave everything be.
Yeah. I think that's so important. It really is.
Absolutely.
Well, Kayla, we thank you so much for coming on and sharing your audio with us. We really do appreciate it. And I've got to be listening to it 20 times, so I promise you that. It's great.
Yeah, so we
appreciate everything.
Well, we can't thank you enough, for coming in and visiting with us and letting us play that fantastic audio recording. We really can't. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Okay, let's definitely keep in touch.
With Billy.
Keep in touch with Billy and let us know if you have any updates. And you might listen in on the show because when we have our researchers on, they give tips from their own research. So, if you're looking for new tips, obviously Billy, he's a pro, so you can get with him for anything. But we wish you luck and let us know if anything happens, okay?
All right, I definitely will. I'll try to get some pictures and a video of that place down there so you can kind of get a little bit of a feel of what it's like down in there, too.
That would be
fantastic.
Awesome.
Yes.
All right, well, Kayla, like we said again, thanks a million for stopping by. Please don't be a stranger. Hang in here tonight and listen to the rest of the show if you would like. But there's a lot of good information that passes, across the show. So thank you again.
All right, well, thank you guys, and y'all have a good night.
All right,
good
night.
Good night.
Okay. Gosh, that was fantastic. Thanks, Bill. Done good.
You're very welcome.
I know you was on it now. I'm so happy. Yeah. Okay. Hey, Graff, could you go ahead and introduce our guest for the rest of the show? We'll go ahead and bring him on. He's been real gracious.
I've been upgraded to introducer now. That's right. Okay, ladies and
You're
gentlemen.
good at it.
Ladies and gentlemen, Nite Callers Bigfoot Radio presents Idaho Bigfoot Researcher Anthony Moffett. Nite Callers continues the series of the North American Sasquatch Researcher tonight with Anthony Moffett from Idaho. Anthony is a mountain man, explorer, adventurer, trail guide, and a Bigfoot researcher and investigator. His primary research area is in Idaho in the Sawtooth National Forest north of Kethcum, Idaho. Anthony likes long day hikes deep into the mountains where he also does overnight camping trips. When he is notified of a sighting in or around Idaho, he goes to the location to investigate the sighting and interview witnesses. Anthony is a veteran Bigfoot researcher of 20 years off and on in many different states. In the last 10 years, he has been doing it full time while trying to acquaint himself with the computer and the internet that has become such an integral part of Bigfoot research today. He also enjoys sharing what he does and has exciting plans for the upcoming summer.
Anthony, welcome to Nite Callers Bigfoot Radio. How are you doing tonight?
Thank you. I'm doing great. Nice to be here.
You were piping in during while we were interviewing Kayla, and I thank you for that. Yes, I know. What did you think of that?
That was very, very interesting. They have a very interesting piece of property there. Any Bigfooter would love to be able to just step out their back door and go out and do some Bigfooting. I think they have a unique opportunity there to do some Bigfoot research.
I do too. So, Anthony, how did you get involved in Bigfoot research?
I had a sighting when I was a young man. I think I was around 12. I was running through the woods to a buddy's house, and I come across a couple of deer. I come up a hill, and these two bucks were just staring at each other. They wouldn't move. I even walked up within 2 feet of them, was throwing my hands up in the air, yelling, and they wouldn't move. And so I backed up, and I was standing underneath a tree, and I picked up an object and tossed it and hit one of them in the side, and they both turned and ran. This tree, I looked up in this tree, and there was something big and black laying up on one of the branches on this tree. And at that age, I had no idea. I'd never even heard of Bigfoot. I didn't know what it was. But I just saw a part of it, and it scared me really bad, and I took off and I got out of there.
So it was too big to be a panther or anything. Is that what?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. It was. This was in completely different state than where I live now. There were no panthers or mountain lions or anything like that in the area.
Okay.
I could see the part of it that I could see kind of looked like a man laying on the tree, but it was completely black and hairy. And I couldn't wrap my mind around it. I took off and got out of there. But what really sparked my interest was about a year or two later, my oldest sister's boyfriend and his friend came over to the house, and they were both shook up really bad. And they were out in the country doing something in their car, and their headlights shined on a Bigfoot. And they said this Bigfoot was carrying a deer. They could see the deer antlers sticking up, and that's the first time they had seen one. And they wouldn't say much more about it, but they were pretty shook up about it. And that's what sparked my interest in the subject. And I think I was about 14, maybe 15 years old at the time.
Could you tell us what state that was in?
That was in Indiana.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So you've researched in off and on in many different states. So what other states have you researched in?
Well, just like I was telling your caller that just called in, I lived in Oklahoma for 4 years. That's where my wife went to college, and she went to college in Ada. And I did know of David Wilbanks and what he was doing with bigfooting in Oklahoma at the time. I didn't do much big. I'm telling you, now that I heard that audio, I wish I would have done more bigfooting when I lived in Oklahoma. But I've done. I lived in Wyoming for several years, Montana for several years, Colorado for several years, and I've been here in Idaho now for about 7 years.
Well, does Idaho offer some strong Bigfoot activity?
Well, Idaho is not really. I'm just learning. This Facebook and YouTube. I just got into doing that this last summer, and because I started doing that, I'm now learning of other Bigfooters in the state of Idaho. But there really haven't been a lot of Bigfoot reports out of this state, and it's really hard to believe. Maybe some people just aren't reporting. I have learned of more sightings now that I'm meeting more people that are in Bigfooting in Idaho. I've learned of activity that I wasn't aware of. But, Idaho has so many backcountry trail systems in these mountains. I would assume that Idaho has more trail systems than any other Rocky Mountain state. And I'm very impressed with it. The habitat in the Sawtooth is perfect for Bigfoot.
Beautiful country there. Beautiful.
It's amazing. It's amazing. When you get into north of Boise, around McCall, or north of Twin Falls into Haley and Kethcum, where I live, the mountains here are just amazing.
It's got to be a very difficult place to research. The terrain alone makes it very difficult to get in there. So you do deep hikes. You start like early in the morning and go in and during the day and then come back out at night, or tell us how.
Well, if I'm just doing a day hike, depending on how far you want to go, you do have to start as early as you can. Just to go 5 miles is a 5 mile hike is usually uphill the whole way. So you're talking anywhere, depending on how fit you are and how good of a hiker you are, anywhere from 3 to 6 hours just to do that hike round trip. So if you want to do any big footing, that requires a little more time also, off trail or just wandering around looking for sign. It can be a long day, which is why it makes it better if you're going to hike in and spend the night and do some backcountry camping. I invited a guy the other day to come up here and do some bigfooting with me, and he said he heard these mountains here are very unforgiving, and they are. If you're not used to hiking the trails around here, they're gonna test you a little bit for sure.
Yeah. Do you normally go by yourself?
I do. Yes.
Okay. And you don't feel uncomfortable being off in there by yourself?
Sometimes I do, yeah. Sometimes I do. Occasionally, like I said, I will take a dog with me. My son's dog, he has a German Shepherd, and every now and then I'll take the dog with me just to get some exercise. And I like taking the dog. The dog will let me know when something's. I'll just watch the dog and look for the signs that the dog gives me. You know, the dog will react to certain situations. You know how dogs are if you're out in your area coon hunting or hog hunting or you know, any type of hunting. Dogs like to lead. Dogs like to be out there enjoying themselves. I've noticed when I'm getting activity in a certain area, if I have a dog with me, that dog will no longer lead. That dog will get behind me and stay behind me or freeze up and won't move. So a dog can make it interesting. A dog can tell you a lot when you have a dog out there with you.
What about equipment?
But yes, I'm sorry, go ahead.
What kind of equipment do you take out there with you?
Well, I usually carry a pack. In the pack, I'll carry a pack that has a bladder system in it that'll keep the water in. I'll carry a tape measure. I carry a sidearm. I carry bear spray. I carry plaster for casting, and a first aid kit, a survival knife, of course a camera, and that's about it. I try to keep it as light as possible. You know, if I am just doing a day hike, I'm planning on maybe a 20-mile day. You know, you don't want too much weight on your back when you're doing that.
Oh, did it? 20 miles, did you say?
Yeah.
20, like 20?
Yeah, I've done 30 miles in a day. Sometimes I have a friend that lives in Salmon, Idaho, and when he's in Haley, he'll call me up and we'll go do some hikes, and him and I will go on 30-mile loops. We'll climb 4 or 5 saddles in a day. We'll start at 6 o'clock in the morning. Won't get back till 7 or 8 o'clock at night. It can be done, but it requires a lot of fast-paced humping to do it.
So you think that the low percentage of reports coming out of Idaho could be because people in Idaho are closed-mouthed and don't want to report what they're seeing? Or do you think it's because there is so much wilderness for them to hide in?
I would say a little bit of both. I recently learned of a sighting near Perkins Lake, which is about 30, 40 miles north of here. And I went out there and I investigated that area in early November. But, you know, over summer, the Sawtooth National Forest is a tourist attraction. We get a lot of people in here over summer from all over the world, all over the country, that camp, enjoy all our mountain lakes for fishing and boating and just to enjoy nature. And people, we do get a lot of people out on our trails, but there are so many trails that very few of them have people on them. And I do think that a lot of people that do either hear something or see something, most of the time won't report it. But there have been, now that I've joined the Facebook world and met other Idaho Bigfooters in other towns, I'm learning of activity. There's been more activity than what I knew in some of these areas. You know, they're not abundant on these reportings, but I've even had people tell me of people that work for the Forest Service and things like that have reported activity.
Okay. Graf, do you have any questions for our guest or Bill? I think I caught him off guard.
No, I'm
sleeping over there.
I was trying to get my Google Earth to work, and it's not working tonight for some reason or other.
Well,
I was trying to figure out where the Sawtooth Ridge was and what kind of terrain you got to deal with. Yeah, that's a pretty pushed up area.
The Sawtooth National Forest is a very big, very vast, high mountain forested terrain. It's, as long as I've lived here, and I do a lot of hiking, I haven't even begun to tap into all the places that I can go.
Well, you are the first person I've ever talked to that has researched out of Idaho. Go ahead, Graf. I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. I spent some time passing through Idaho a few times, but it was mostly up north near Coeur d'Alene. Never made it down past into that area. I'm looking at it now. I finally got something up here. That's pretty craggy stuff.
Coeur d'Alene is an interesting area, too.
Beautiful. I was wanting to move up that way a couple of years back. I was looking at Idaho. I was seriously looking at Idaho. But I didn't think I could handle the winters. The winters are pretty rough.
Well, they can be, but last year we had a real mild winter, and in the wintertime, these are ski resort communities. There's more than a dozen. There's about a dozen ski resorts in Haley and Kethcum and Sun Valley, and we had hardly any snow at all the winter before, and it really hurt the communities. It really hurt the businesses. Lack of people coming in to ski. Just due to the lack of snow. This year we had about 3 feet on Christmas, and right now the mountains are covered in snow, so things are a little better. And that's one of the things I wanted to get at is, it depends on how much snow we get. Now, a lot of the places I Bigfoot, they're just too difficult to get into in the wintertime. And if we have a lot of snowfall and the snow sticks around pretty far into spring, you're talking about a shorter Bigfoot season come summertime. So if we get a warm spring and a lot of the snow will start melting soon, I get out there as soon as I can. Now, I hiked up to Sawtooth Lake, which is over by Stanley, Idaho, which is an amazing area. I recommend anybody that wants to go on a vacation to hit that area. And it does get a lot of tourists in the summertime. This was in the middle of July. I hiked up to Sawtooth Lake, and within about half a mile of the lake, there was still 2 foot of snow. The lake was still covered in ice.
Wow.
Don't you think the snow pushes them down into the valleys a little bit more to keep an eye on the elk?
Yes, I do. That's the streams in the spring, and I have to cross a lot of streams, and all the runoff from the snow keeps those streams moving pretty fast and pretty deep, and it can make it difficult sometimes. You always have to look for a log to usually cross a downed log to cross a lot of these streams that are out there. But I tell you what, you all are invited to come up here and do some Bigfooting, and I'll show you around the Sawtooth anytime you want.
Well, I don't know if I could handle a 20 or 30-mile hike. I'm going to tell you right now. I hiked 5 miles up and down some small hills, and I was complaining profusely.
Well, I think we could avoid that.
Okay.
That's the problem we've got up here in the Cascades. Everything's at a 45-degree angle.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Yeah,
it can make it rough. It can make it rough, and that's why I keep myself fit. Now, my weight, because, I'm not a young man anymore, but I'm not an old man either. I'm kind of in between. So, my weight does fluctuate sometimes. And, over winter like this, when you live in a high-altitude area like I do, winter is the time when you're going to put on weight. You're going to pack on the pounds if you're not careful. So over winter like this, I like to keep myself on a diet, and I hit the gym on a regular basis. And when spring comes around, I'm ready to get out there and hit the trails.
Great plan. I
have to tell you, I really like what you've done with that picture I sent you of my tree peaker.
Yes, I thought that was a very interesting picture. In fact, if anyone is that's listening out there, if you go to our blog talk page on Anthony Moffett, we've got a slideshow of some of his research pictures and stuff. So if you go there, you'll find one very interesting figure, looks to be a figure behind the tree. And to me, I just boosted the color a little bit on it. Like I always kind of doctor the pictures up a little bit just to bring out the color and everything. And when I did, it enhanced the photograph. And
a lot of people that have seen that picture are trying to find out where my area is at, and of course I won't tell them. But there are people that and there's a Bigfooter out of Boise that asked me several times, and of course I wouldn't tell him. I wouldn't tell him where that spot's at. That's my spot. But
I was going to ask you, Anthony, did you tell us about some of the activity that you've experienced in your research area?
Well, that particular area there was very active this last summer. It was actually shocking how active it was. And I think it was so active because 2 years ago we had one of the largest forest fires in the nation. I could walk outside my door and see skyscraper high flames on the mountains, and it was scary. We were covered in smoke for an entire month. You couldn't even go outside. And so I think the fires have relocated them into different areas, and that's what made this area so active. But when I first started investigating this area, I started finding tracks of different sizes, anywhere from 13 inches all the way up to 18, so I knew I was dealing with a clan. That particular day I had my encounter. When I walked up into this area, it was quiet. I mean, quiet. This was early August. Normally, all the little forest creatures and the birds are doing their thing, and it's normally fairly noisy. I was shocked at how quiet it was, but I went up into this area to look around the lakes, to look for tracks and possible structures and other sign that might be around. And I had been out altogether for about 7 hours. I came back around to the area where I had come in, and I heard some voices. And the first thing that crossed my mind was, well, somebody else is out here. So I went and looked, and there was no one there. So I walked deeper in about another 20 minutes, looking for sign, and I decided, you know what, I'm done for the day. I'm finished. I've had enough. And I started heading back. And I got about a quarter of a mile down the trail, and it went from dead silent to whoops, tree knocks, these strange type screeching howls, almost similar to what you played earlier, but it was on a much softer level. And it was quite a shocker. I was exhausted, I was in shock, and I was excited all at the same time. And I almost fled the area. It was that intense. And I said, get a hold of yourself, man. That's what you came out here for. And I have a video on YouTube that picture is edited out of called A Bigfoot Encounter, a Tree Peeker Knocks and Other Sounds. And in that video, you will hear the tree knock. As I was shooting that video, and at the beginning of that video, I say this feels like a bold move because it did. I knew they were out in front of me, and I was walking closer to them. And that tree peeker was only 30 feet in front of me. And I didn't see it. I didn't see it at all. The camera picked it up. Luckily, the camera picked it up.
That's very common.
Yeah. Well, I didn't see it at all. But I knew that I had encountered a small clan by what I was listening to. And, I've even had people tell me in that picture, just a little to the left of the tree peeker and a little further back, it looks like there's a white one, an albino a little further back in the trees, and I've had people point that out to me. But after I shot that video, the camera died. That camera battery was good for about 7 hours, depending on how much I used it. And that day, I used it quite a bit. And this was part of the story that I left out. When I was walking around these different lakes, I was shooting video in different areas as I walked around. And when I got home and I uploaded these videos, I actually picked up tree peekers in different areas up there where I was shooting videos. So my assumption was they were watching me, they were following me around, they knew I was there. But yet at that time, I wasn't aware of their presence yet until they opened up on me when I was coming back around. And, after that video died, I really regret that I let fear get the best of me, and I got out of there. I slowly walked out of that section of tree line, walked about a quarter mile down the trail, and then I picked up my pace and headed on back to my car. I had about a 5.5 mile hike to get back to my car. But because I now know what was involved with the situation, I really regret and I was in a lot of deadfall. I really regret not sitting down on one of those logs and just sitting there. I mean, I think I would have saw so much more and gotten to experience so much more. But I did. I had a lot of fear from that day, and I had gone back up there several times. I took apples up there and peanut butter and left things like that up there. But it took a long time to get over the fear. As soon as I would get into that area, I would get the shakes and just have a little fear and anxiety like you wouldn't believe for the longest time after that. And I did, for the most part, manage to get over that. But anytime I get into that area, I do make sure I'm vigilant and, paying attention to what's around me at all times. And this is the odd thing, is about 3 months before that encounter, I done a loop. It was about a 12-mile loop. And, up in that elevation, it's close to about 10,000 feet above sea level. The valley was, it was 80, I would guess it was in the 70s, high 70s in the valley. But up in the mountains up there, it was still pretty cold and pretty freezing at night, so there was a lot of snow up there still. And I had to walk through a lot of snow that day when I done that loop, and it was very exhausting. But I did have that German Shepherd with me that day. When we got to the spot where I had my encounter, that dog froze up and wouldn't move. I mean, I was kicking it in the rear end and everything else, trying to get it to move, and it wouldn't move. Finally, I went around the dog and headed up the trail, and the dog followed and stayed behind me. And, at the time, I knew something was in there that had the dog spooked, but yet at the time I wasn't sure what it was. And then after my encounter, I realized why that dog froze up where it did. They had been in that area for quite some time. And I'm hoping this next year they'll still be there.
Public for someone to see.
What's that?
Do you have those videos in public for someone to see on your YouTube or something?
Yeah, they're on YouTube. I have the video that I shot during the encounter that you can hear the knocks and see the tree peeker on. It's called a Bigfoot encounter. A tree peeker knocks and other sounds I say other sounds because the screeching sound vocalizations that they were making I can't even describe. But in that video, while I'm doing my commentary, you will hear the tree knocks. Now, there are some tree creaking that happens a little later in the video, but you can hear the tree knocks in that video, and that's on YouTube, along with my own edited versions of the tree peeker arm and hand exposed. When I was editing it, I saw where it had its arm sticking out from the tree, but I have an old laptop that doesn't have great editing equipment, so that's the best I can do. And then there's also a version, my own little edited version called just a tree peeker, where I zoom in on that tree peeker.
Well, what's your YouTube name?
That's just it's Anthony Moffett, Bigfoot Videos.
Yeah. We have the links to all of his to his YouTube, to his website, and also to his Facebook on our site. So if you go there and read up on his bio, the YouTube, all of his links are there. So if you guys want to go there and check that out while we go to break, we'll be back shortly.
Yes, and please subscribe.
Yeah, it's time for that break. I'm out of coffee, folks. And it's electric coffee, Bill.
Oh, no.
Hell yeah. I was going to tell you folks out there that are listening, if you have any questions, call in 347-989-0313, and we'll be back shortly, 6 minutes tops.
You are listening to Nite Callers Bigfoot Radio. Now, back to our guest, Idaho Bigfoot researcher, Anthony Moffett.
And did that song bring back some memories? Whoa!
Sure does.
I'm a Hoosier, too. I grew up on that kind of stuff. Okay, back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. I got to get caught up on a couple of these chat room questions here. Let's see. Lori103 asks, has he ever have a Bigfoot come into his camp?
Me? Have I ever had a Bigfoot come into my camp?
Yes, sir.
No, I haven't. Not yet.
Yeah, you didn't mention whether or not you did any overnighters out there.
Yes, occasionally I do some overnighters. I don't do a whole lot because I am a solo investigator, but I do have people that want to Bigfoot with me now, that want to go out with me. So I do plan to do more night investigations. I honestly believe if I had a thermal imager, I know some areas that I could have gotten some Bigfoots on a therm this last summer.
Right. Know anybody happen to have one? Those are spendy little toys.
That's right. That's why I don't have one.
Yeah. All right. Well, Digger Dog in the chat, and this was popping into my head too. Do you carry any guns while you're out there wandering around?
I do. I do carry a sidearm.
There's a lot of stuff out there besides Bigfoot.
That's right.
I can't imagine wandering around out there without one.
That's right. I carry just for protection. I don't want to have to pull it and shoot anything. I used to be a wildlife photographer, and I love nature and wildlife. Occasionally I come across a bear, but so far I haven't even had to pull my bear spray out. So I'm hoping it'll stay that way. But it's there on my side if I need it for protection.
What is it? What's the gun you carry with you?
Well, I have a few different ones that I carry. 44, 9mm, 40mm. Just depends on how I feel. If I don't want to lug around something too heavy, I'll go with the lighter gauge.
You ever bump into any grizz or any tracks?
I find a lot of bear tracks and bear scat, both. I sure do. And sometimes I find some pretty good size bear track. And I tell you, you feel real alone when you're out there by yourself and you find a 9 or 10 inch bear track.
Yeah, they're talking about, we've got grizz in the Cascades now. They found some tracks up on the side of Mount Rainier. And that kind of bothers me a little bit.
Well, I've been told that some problem grizzly bears have been relocated from places like the Yellowstone or Glacier National Park into this area.
Right. Well, that's just what we need is a bunch of problem ones. How about some nice ones?
That's right.
Relocate the damn nice ones that'll leave you alone. Why are they relocating the problem ones? That's like moving Billy to Indiana.
Oh, no. Let's hope not.
Billy and I had some discussions about Hoosiers since I'm a Hoosier, but
what part of Indiana are you from?
My whole family, well, going back to the 1700s, starting in Pennsylvania, moving across Kentucky, Ohio, Indiana. Mostly downtown Indianapolis back when it was just a cow town with just a set of tracks coming through there. And then Knightstown and some of the outskirts.
Okay. Well, I went to high school in Plainfield.
I can't remember where that is. It's been about 30 years since I've been back here. I think I've pretty much forgotten more than I remember about Indiana.
Well, and I know how you feel. I've tried to forget it myself.
Nothing saying anything about Hoosiers. You ever notice any of the You ever get a lot of people that, when they're looking at a Squatch track, some of the debunkers say, well, that's a bear track. Do you have a problem with that, with bears or grizz or anything else like that, being able to tell the difference between the two?
Oh yeah, there's a big difference. You know, it's pretty easy to pick out a bear track versus a Bigfoot track due to the shape and sometimes the size. Now, occasionally I do come across tracks that I'm not sure about. You know, it fits the profile of a Bigfoot. Maybe it's 13 inches or something like that, not extra large, and kind of shallow. And so I do come across tracks that I'm not sure about. And if I'm not sure about a track, I will, and I put it in my videos. I won't say it's a Bigfoot track. I will say it fits the profile, or it could be.
That's one of the.
I do find a lot of shallow tracks. In fact, the ground is so hard here, and that's one of the reasons I like to hit the lakes and the streams. Some of the softer ground to look for tracks. It can be difficult to find the deep ones. The definitive tracks.
And it's one of the controversies about the bear prints on those things, because something they call the double step, where you have the rear paw hitting up on the front paw and making almost a thin part to where a heel would be, and then there'd be the spread up in the front, so it almost looks like a squat's track. But I haven't come across that myself, but I could see that happening. I sure could. One of the things you want to look for are the claws. The front claws or the rear claws that the bear is going to leave in their track. But they don't always. It just depends on the ground. So, you find anything unique about the Idaho Bigfoot as compared to other Bigfoot around the country, as far as maybe their culture or their size, or their difference?
So far, what I've come to notice is their and I investigated a sighting by a family out at Perkins Lake. There was a family from Oregon camped at Perkins Lake back in 2010, and they saw two. And what I've seen and what I've heard about other people seeing, the Bigfoots we have here, they seem to be black. Their hair is black. Now, I was paralleled once. When I was running down a mountain, I was caught up there in a thunderstorm, and I was trying to get down before the storm hit full blown. And I was running down the trail, and just before I stopped running, I looked to my left, and I saw something running through the tree line on my left, and that fur appeared to be a brownish color, the typical reddish brown. It was bipedal. I saw it for a quick second, and that's all I saw of it. But from what I can tell so far, the majority of the Bigfoots around here seem to be black in nature as far as their color.
That's pretty much all I've heard about the Cascades too, and anything having to do with anything coming. Let's say they're attached to the groups up in Canada or something like Canada is mostly black.
Right.
I haven't heard anything about brown or any changes around there. There's been some white ones every once in a while, but that could be tossed off as possibly being gray silver from an older.
Well, there are some people that think I have an albino due to what they've seen in my video. People that have better editing equipment and things like that, and just what you can see in that picture. But in that picture, what's back there in the background may not even be a Bigfoot. There's something there, and it looks white, but it could be the lighting and things like that. But I've been told by some people that I do chat with on the phone that they believe I have an albino, which also sparks their interest.
Right. You have mostly pine up in those sawtooths, or you got any deciduous up there?
Yeah, we have a lot of pine, a lot of aspen trees.
Aspen, yeah.
Yeah.
I had to remember what that was.
Now, I did have a Bigfoot sighting when I was in the military.
Do tell.
Okay. Back in 1988, I went in June of 88, and I was sent to Fort Dix, New Jersey for my basic training. And I believe we were in blue phase, getting close to graduation. They took us out to an obstacle course to run an obstacle course, the whole battalion. So there were several platoons out that day, and we were going to compete platoon against platoon on this obstacle course. When we got out there, I walked away from the battalion, and I walked over to a tree line, and I heard some rustling through the brush. So I looked into the tree line, and there was one running down a hillside, and there was another one, and this was a ravine. When I looked into the tree line, from where I was standing, it dropped down. On my right and my left, it dropped down into this little bowl ravine, and the ground was just covered in brownish leaves down there. They were in the push-up position, but if you're at the bottom end of the push-up, if your chest is maybe half an inch to an inch off the ground, with the elbows really extended out to the side. When I first saw these things, I thought that we weren't the only ones out here training, that maybe the infantry were out here training also. And you know, I was on a military base. I certainly wasn't thinking about Bigfoot at the time. So when I first saw these things, I was thinking I was looking at other military personnel. You know, I got to looking at these things, and there was no Kevlar helmets, there was no boots. What at first I thought were ghillie suits looked more like a brownish, grayish fur. One of them had its head slightly turned, and I could see the face on this thing looked just like that face in the Patterson-Gimlin film on Patty. One of my platoon mates walked over and asked me what I was doing, and I said, well, I believe there's two men down there. And, you know, of course I turned and I looked at him while I was saying these things, so he walked over and he looked down in there also, and these things were gone. They were just gone at that point. But I was questioned by several high-ranking officials that wanted to know what I saw because there was no one else in the area training.
Right.
You know.
Where was that?
I can remember. What's that?
Where was that at?
That was at Fort Dix, New Jersey.
Jersey.
Yeah.
Wow. Everywhere.
I can remember looking at these things, and I was so puzzled by what I was seeing, you know, because they just didn't fit the profile of quite human, and I remember just being confused and puzzled as to what I was looking at, you know, and it's actually something I put out of mind for several years, and, you know, thinking back on it and going into memory, of course, now I have a better understanding of why I was confused at what I was seeing. But they were able to disappear pretty quick off the scene. It was only maybe 2 or 3 seconds that I was turned away from looking at them and talking to this platoon mate of mine. In that span of time, they were gone. If it would have been men down there, they would have created quite a bit of noise, and also wouldn't have been able to disappear quite that fast.
And we have the same thing happening over at Fort Lewis over here in Washington. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of acres of just pristine forest on the reservation itself.
Right.
And every once in a while, the guys will be out there running some drills or something, and they'll bump into one. And someone will see one. Of course, that's kind of like a hush-hush.
Right.
As far as the brass is concerned. But everybody knows it's there, and the brass knows it's there. Everybody knows. There's several reports online and some stories about that on some of these.
Well, I hear they work in convenience stores up in Washington.
Well, we don't like to talk about that too much. You might get some of those kill guys out there chasing them around with a shotgun. You know, we don't like talking about
that. Like Texas.
Okay, Lori?
I would love, you know, I've never been up in Washington State. I would love to get up there and explore that countryside. I really would. I think it would be great.